Hi there, my name is Tiara and I'm so glad to have you here. In this video, I'm going to give you a few life lessons from the first season of the show Woke. For those who've forgotten or just didn't see it, here's a quick synopsis. In Woke, Keith Knight, played by Lamorne Morris, is a non-controversial black cartoonist on the brink of mainstream success. After a traumatizing encounter with the police, he becomes more aware of everyday microaggressions and must learn to navigate his relationships and career as a newly woke black man. Life lesson number 1. It's okay for art to just be art. The idea that black artists have to make a public service announcement under the guise of art or entertainment is grounded in a scarcity mindset. I get it. There has always been and still is a shortage of black representation. However, I do wonder if we allowed artists to just be artists who happen to be black, would we then in turn get more opportunities? By no means am I suggesting we pander to any group of people or apologize for our blackness. I'm simply suggesting we allow people to be themselves. Everyone is not deep with mind-blowing thoughts or highfalutin concepts and would not produce thought-provoking art. Some people are not challengers by nature. So why do we expect them to create challenging art? The truth of the matter is everyone doesn't have the capacity for the discussions you may want to exist in the world. Just because an artist is a person of color doesn't mean they have the knowledge or forethought necessary to play a part in the ongoing discussion about race, class, or any other ism in America. Their inability to speak on these important topics doesn't mean they are incapable of producing quality art, or at the very least, high-grossing productions, which of course means the possibility of more jobs or opportunities. Let's be honest. Discussions about race, class, and all other isms are exhausting and uncomfortable for many people, regardless of race. There are plenty of people who do not truly care to experience a boatload of art that makes some important statement. They just want to be entertained. Not to mention, how are we going to convince anyone we aren't a monolith when we expect and demand all black art to fit into a tight criterion, a standard or model that probably doesn't represent every black person in America, let alone the world. Life lesson number 2. Well-meaning allies are sometimes harmful. There's a stark difference between how the police treated Keith and how they treated Guthner. It's especially notable that when the police discovered Keith wasn't the right guy, no one said I'm sorry, or even acknowledged they'd caused harm to someone they were supposed to protect. It's very clear Keith is the victim in this situation, yet Guthner, Keith's friend and ally, hijacks the moment by saying, "I can't believe they did us like that." Who is this us in his mind? Guthner wasn't thrown to the ground. He didn't have anybody on his back holding him down. And when he argued with the police, nothing happened. For Guthner, this was an unpleasant experience, an example that racial injustice exists. He can go to sleep knowing he stood up for his friend. However, for Keith, this is a pivotal moment that shakes his worldview and shapes his actions thereafter. With all things considered, Guthner's attempt to claim Keith's distress as a shared pain is harmful. Another slight that I refuse to ignore is Guthner's response to the Black People for Sale posters. His outrage is interesting because he knows it's not his place to tell Keith what kind of art he should be making, but he does so anyway. Guthner knew how white people would respond from the jump. Yet, instead of rolling with the punches or using it as a teachable moment, he attempts to censor Keith by telling him his art was wrong for the umpteenth time. Guthner, like many white allies, really isn't as evolved as he likes to believe himself to be. If he was, he wouldn't be trying to control the way Keith chooses to express his point of view about race relations in America. Now, I don't say all of this to make Guthner out to be a bad guy. I'm not even suggesting he is not a friend or ally. But he is a great example of why it's not our allies' right or business to tell our stories. Even well-meaning allies who want to get the story right often won't. By nature, most will erase everything that makes them look bad and attempt to censor the others, in this case, the black folk, according to what they believe the majority or those in power can handle. Life lesson number 3. Blackness as a commodity is a slippery slope we're already on. The idea of people treating blackness as something they can put on or remove whenever convenient is hurtful to all non-ambiguous and or proud black folk. Since commodities are usually traded whenever convenient, the idea of blackness as a commodity is problematic at its core. However, black folk might be the only people who truly believe blackness isn't a commodity. White folk stay stealing, rebranding, and selling as much blackness as they can. Their misappropriation of black African American culture is far from a harmless act. It becomes more than simple appreciation the moment they start making money off of our culture, ideas, and natural bodies. It could be argued we all misappropriate others' cultures in the name of fashion, good food, or whenever else other people's stuff is convenient here in the United States. However, we're not all making more money off of other people's culture than they ever will. These people who make billions off of African American black culture hardly ever pour into black communities. Consider this. If black people were to create an agency where we rented ourselves out based on our blackness, or the Black on Demand agency for argument's sake, we would on average make more money for our essence than we ever do in reality. Now, I'm not suggesting we shouldn't hold some things like our essence as too sacred to be sold. But for everything you refuse to sell, someone with a gift for marketing will happily take, leaving you high and dry on the coins that arguably should be yours. For example, in the case of the Black on Demand agency, most of us would throw the idea away. We would argue it ain't worth the time, or more specifically, the backlash. But you better believe some non-melanated fellow would happily take the idea, call it Essence on Demand agency, get some ambiguous girl or guy to be the poster child, and watch his money stack. The truth of the matter is, blackness as a commodity is a slippery slope we're already on. And for those of y'all who aren't convinced, I give you fashion brands, luxury car companies, certain alcohol brands, and black hair, to name a few. Or more specifically, box braids, big hoop earrings, fried chicken, collard greens, big butts, hip hop. I could go on, but I won't. This leads to my real question. What would happen if we were to start treating our blackness as a commodity and take control over that commodity? For example, if we were to create or sign up for Black on Demand agency, would we then be consenting to whatever insensitive or racist ideals or actions we may experience because of that choice? After all, once it's out there, it's hard and sometimes impossible to control the narrative or its use. Comment below with your thoughts about the Black on Demand agency. Would you be a part of it? Life lesson number 4. You can't apologize and control the conversation at the same time. You can't apologize and control the conversation. I mean, you could. It's definitely possible. I've done this before. It goes something like this. I'm not sorry for what I said, but for how I said it. Statements like this delegitimize any would-be negative feelings or response from the other person. In other words, it's like saying, I was wrong, but so were you, so don't go acting like you have right to be mad at me. While such apologies may be true to how you feel, this type of apology doesn't usually lead to real change in a disagreement. Situations like Keith's experience with the police can't be resolved by making blanket statements such as, I'm sorry, but, or sorry for this, not that. They surely don't get solved by streaming together a bunch of words in a one-sided conversation that doesn't allow the other person an opportunity to articulate their feelings or verbally respond. This particular tactic of constant talking means you never have to hear or lend power to the other person. By using such antics, the police officer never stopped being a menacing authority. It truly didn't matter if he was sorry or not, on or off duty, carrying a gun or not, or any of the other things that might make the presence of a cop a threat to black folk. This police officer came to the table with the pretense of apologizing, but intent to make Keith's lack of power undeniable. As the scene proceeds, we find out he is a racially inept police officer who believes he's righteous. Racial profiling is okay, and Keith got off easy. Which leads to my question. Why apologize if you're sure you're right? Sometimes it would be more productive if we would just say, I don't have any intentions of changing, so what you want to do? At least it would be honest. It would definitely be more honest than I'm sorry while controlling the conversation, therefore attempting to control the other person's feelings and response. Now I know somebody's watching thinking, was the show good? Did you like it? On a scale of 1 to 5 stars, this is a solid 3.8 for me. This show manages to give a relatively accurate yet imaginative depiction of what it means to be woke. For anyone who cares about race relations, the show might be an echo chamber of thoughts and conversations you're already having. For anyone who doesn't understand why microaggressions matter, this might be a good reference point or starter kit, if you will. The show is humorous and clever. I love the use of inanimate objects. J.B. Smoove might be one of my favorite characters in the show. If I'm being honest, I low-key enjoyed the inanimate objects more than any of the human characters. This is not to minimize any particular actor because I think the actors are doing a fine job. All things considered, I would say the show fits nicely into a timely pocket. Now it's your turn. Don't forget to share, subscribe, hit the bell, and or tell me your thoughts down in the comments. Did you like the show? Did you learn anything? Or was it just a good time?